Hi guys, welcome back. We're finishing off the rooftop patio area today on the Gnome Home. It's a bit of a longer video, but if you stick with it till the end, it'll be worth it. When I originally installed the string lights in the house, I left the battery pack and some extra lights sticking out of the top so I could have lighting in the patio area. After a bit of thought, I decided to make branches to hold the lighting up. The branches are made with foil, wooden dowels, glue, masking tape and paper mache. First up, I glued the edge of some foil to a wooden dowel and scrunchily rolled it up. This makes the main branch. Use foil to make forked bits at the end of the branch and then cover it all over with masking tape. Shape it however you want by adjusting the foil. Remember, the materials I use in each of my videos will be listed in the description below. As you can see, I've made far more than I needed, and they're all sorts of shapes. Now, just like with the tree bark, use a water and white glue mix to papier mâché over the branch with black tissue paper. Remember to get it good and crinkly. Also, don't do this outside on a breezy day or your tissue paper will blow all over the garden. Make sure your tissue paper edges are torn and not cut, so they'll blend better. Cut edges will show up quite obviously, and torn edges don't. And this is what they look like at this stage. After they've been left to dry, but before I install them, I better build the shed to hide the battery pack in. I cut two side pieces and a roof out of cardboard. One side piece has a notch out of the top corner, so the lighting cable will be able to fit through. As you watch me dry fitting the pieces here, you can see that the battery pack will be kept inside the shed, but I'll be able to pull it out to turn the lights on and off and change the batteries. You can see the pen marks I made, so I know where to glue the pieces in. This will all be covered up soon enough. Off screen, I covered the cardboard pieces in masking tape, and I'm going to use a combination of hot glue and tacky glue to stick them in place. The side pieces also have an extra bit of masking tape to stick them to the shed roof. The hot glue gives it an immediate hold, but the tacky glue will add strength and the long-term hold. At the last minute, I remembered to put the battery pack and cable in place before everything was fully glued in position. The roof looks a little wonky, but it adds to its charm. Once it's had a minute to set, start papier-mâché all over it, blending the edges to the existing tree bark. When the papier-mâché is dry, I'm gluing a couple of little strips of fabric to one side of the shed doorway to serve as hinges. Once the glue is cured, I will papier-mâché over the strips on the outside wall of the shed. Now it's time to install the branches. I start off with the tacky glue and hot glue to hold them in place, and I add extra tacky glue around the bottom joins for good measure. In hindsight, I could have used less of these branches to hold up the lights, but since I was making it up as I went along, this is what I did. For future lighting though, I know better now, and I'll save myself some effort. To make the branches look more like an organic and cohesive part of the tree, I'm going to build up around the bases of the branches with foil. Check out that glue bottle death grip. Do this with all the branches and then cover the foil with masking tape. Papier-mâché over the masking tape, and again remember to blend the new papier-mâché over the old so it will look seamless when you paint it. When it's dry, the painting can begin with burnt umber. Next up is burnt sienna. Then add a light brushing of raw sienna. Followed by pale grey dry brushing, which I totally overdid it on. I'm shaking my head now watching this train wreck, but I do manage to salvage it. Keep in mind the paint colours will dry darker, but I start off with trying to wipe off the excess. And just like the dork that I am, I immediately add more paint again. So I left the grey to dry and then dry brushed some burnt sienna over the top to tone it back a bit. Walking away from my dodgy paint job, I'm using scrap cardstock from packaging to make a fake shingle roof for the shed. I drew up a template of the roof so I can dry fit and pre-plan the roof without having to get up off my chair. I cut the cardstock into ruler wide strips. Like the reckless daredevil I am not, I use my craft knife to randomly score lines and marks into the cardstock strips. These will show up when I paint it. Next I drew a line on the strips lengthways, so when I cut the shingles into the strips I stop the cut at the line and they remain joined together. The uncut section will be covered by the row placed above it. Cut some of the shingles slightly wonky with bits off the corners here and there. It's not a brand new roof after all. You can see how I'm roughing up the ends of the shingles with the scissors. It's all about wear and tear texture. Now I'm measuring the strips against the roof template and cutting them to size. When it comes to the very top row, you'll need to trim off the uncut strip to make it fit neatly. See how I'm laying them out so the rows overlap? Make sure the shingles look staggered and not all in straight vertical lines. Okay, time to paint, starting with a base coat of black. Followed by whatever colour you want your shingles to be. I went with an olive green, but I'm intentionally leaving this layer of paint looking a little patchy from years of wear and tear. Okay, let's make a shed door to help hide the battery pack. I'm using popsicle sticks and a couple of coffee stirrers. I first measure out and cut the popsicle sticks to the right height for the door. I'm leaving one of the rounded ends on each stick because I want that bumpy edge for the door. As always, sand any rough edges smooth, and being the craft hoarder that I am, I kept the leftover bits to use for my glue application and paint mixing stash. Once you're happy with them, it's time to add the cross members, and that will help hold the door pieces together. Glue them down with wood glue and clamp them in place while the glue sets. Get these two cross members in place first, and then it will be easier to add a diagonal one later. I slid spare popsicle sticks underneath to help the clamps holding the popsicle sticks in place against the coffee stir sticks so it dries nice and flat. Now the glue is almost completely dry, I'm adding the diagonal stir stick and clamping it down too. While that's drying, I'm off on a tangent and using these two different trims to disguise the lighting cable. So what I'm doing here is gluing one end of each of the trims to the wall of the treehouse with contact adhesive, right by where the light cable comes out. Then one trim at a time, I'm winding it around the lighting cable and gluing it down the other end of the trim, right by the shed. The second trim is round around the cable in the opposite direction, so they overlap and look like a twisted vine. So one is wrapped in a clockwise direction and the other is wrapped in the anti-clockwise direction, all like the strangest double helix you've ever seen. I apologise for the awkward filming angles, but it was really hard to find a good shot that showed what I was doing very clearly. It looks awesome all lit up, but we're still not finished. I have to attach it to the branches, which I did with contact adhesive, and then I added some more trim here and there around the top of the branches. When the trim was cooperating with me, that is. The added trim wrapped around both the branch tops and the lighting cable just gave it that extra hold, as well as making it look a bit more natural, since vines love to wrap themselves around anything and everything given half the chance. So this is where it's at so far. Back to the shed with my death grip on the glue bottle, I spread tacky glue over the roof panel, ready to stick down the roof shingles. Just like we did when we did the thatch roofing, start with the bottom row and overlap each row of shingles. Hold them down with your super high-tech clamping devices. I left the very top row off until the other rows were secure before gluing it down too. I forgot to turn the camera on again, but you didn't miss much. I just painted the door red on both sides. Now I'm dirtying and aging it up with a black wash, and I did that on both sides. Now to make a door handle, I just cut a tiny piece of twig and glued it in place with wood glue. To keep the door shut, I'm borrowing an idea I picked up from Bentley House Minis to use metal T-pins inserted into the door frame and a magnet on the door. How I do it is I poked a hole with a sewing pin, since the T-pins don't have a pointy tip, add glue to the T-pin shafts and push them into the hole. Right about now I realise the fabric hinges will be glaringly obvious inside the shed door as they are, so I painted one side very awkwardly with red paint. Everything's now dry, so I'm going to pop the magnet onto the T-pins, and it will have glue on the back of the magnet so it will stick to the door in the right place when I press the door up against it later. To make matters even more awkward, I'm adding wood glue to the back of the fabric hinges at the same time. I notice one is way too long, so it needed trimming. Is it just me, or does anyone else see the weird profile face and the glue on the top hinge? Now, really awkwardly, try to simultaneously press the haunted fabric hinges to the inside of the door and then press the door closed against the magnet. This may take a couple of goes. Remember these guys from my spun cotton birds video? I added some feathers to the nest kindly donated by my chickens, and now I can glue them down in their new home. They look just as good there as I imagined, but yet again I got all carried away in my crafting world and forgot to film adding moss all around the patio area. If you want to see how I do this, check out the skylight video and I'll link it below. I really loved how this was looking so far, but there is one more detail to add still. Our picnic area needs some colourful bunting. Check out the tiny size of the flag pattern piece. I saved you to the tedious repetition of watching me cutting out the tiny pieces, so let's get to the fun part of making the bunting. I folded each diamond in half to make a crease. I then spread fabric glue on one side and then doubled it over in place on the string. I could leave it like that to dry naturally, but you know I can't wait. So I'm using a mini hair straightener one of my kids forgot about when they left home to iron the flags flat and set the glue. Completed string of bunting. Let's hang it around the patio area with some contact adhesive. It's looking much more fun and festive now. I think it's time to let the gnomes celebrate their new patio area with a barbecue party. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new uploads, and leave a comment because I'd love to hear from you. It really helps my channel to grow. If you want to share your own crafty ideas and projects, join my Facebook page called Nessie Monster Crafts. We have Fun Day Fridays where we can all show off our latest works in progress. If you can afford it, please consider buying me a coffee. Links for both my Facebook group and coffee account are in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!